Hey everyone, welcome to Why Aren't You? I really like heist movies. I really like them. There's something that's just super fascinating to me about the idea of coming up with a plan and a group of specialists with dope ass code names working together to steal a big wad of cash or a collection of diamonds or something along those lines. It's also nice to see the camaraderie between those specialists. Who's cracking jokes with each other? Who has some beef that could tarnish the mission? Do they have a rat that'll talk to the police and put everyone else at risk? It's also great seeing how convoluted the robbery plan is. For the most part, these criminals have every small detail planned out. The security of the location, the layout of the building. Sometimes they'll go as far as to figure out what even the security guards are having for lunch that day. With that, the robbers are also pretty quick on their feet, so if anything goes wrong during the mission, they're usually pretty good at coming up with ways to improvise and get everything back on track. Some of my favorites include the Oceans franchise, Logan Lucky, Baby Driver, American Animals, Now You See Me. These are all wonderful heist movies that exemplify all of these things. My only issue is that 2.5 hours is still not long enough of a movie sometimes. And that's where today's show, Money Heist, comes in. Money Heist is a Spanish drama series directed by Alex Pina. Don't judge me, I took French in high school. The show was shot and originally released via the Spanish television network Antena 3 in May of 2017. According to a documentary about the series released by Netflix, the show was moderately successful but started to fall off towards the end of the first season. The show had finished its 18 episodes and stopped there, with the writers and producers thinking that their story had finished. Netflix had acquired the rights to host the show internationally in October of 2017, choosing to recut the show to fit a more bingeable episode length. Spanish broadcast television usually hosts shows that are 70 minutes long, with commercials included, so Netflix recut them to be less than 60 minutes apiece. Netflix also redubbed the show in different languages, including English, to make it more accessible to English-speaking audiences. Netflix had also chosen to shadow drop the release, not announcing the show's inclusion with any more than a single trailer on the Netflix YouTube channel. But even without a dedicated ad campaign, Money Heist easily became Netflix's most viewed non-English series by early 2018, only a few months within its addition to the platform. The writers and producers had many different explanations for the rise in popularity, including things like the changed way of consuming media from weekly episodes to the binge-watching method. This rise in popularity also led to a renewal of the series, eventually spawning off 4 seasons total, with a 5th one on the way. Money Heist follows the exploits of a man codenamed the Professor, portrayed by Alvaro Mort and his band of merry criminals as they attempt to complete the perfect heist, robbing the Royal Mint of Spain in Madrid. Instead of robbing the money that's already in the bank, though, the crew uses the mint to print their own bills to avoid being traced. One thing I love about the characters is the codenames. Everyone has cool codenames in a heist movie. That way nobody has to know each other's real identities. That way nobody has to rat on anybody. The gang all uses cities as their nicknames. The first character we're introduced to is a woman named Tokyo, a firecracker that follows her heart and usually makes really rash decisions based on what she feels at the time. She's full of passion and falls in love with Rio, the super young hacker bro. Some other notable nicknames include Helsinki, Denver, Moscow, Oslo, Stockholm, and many others. The show lives in 2 separate timelines, one of which taking place during the heist, and another one that takes place during the planning stages of the heist. Through these flashbacks to the planning of the heist, we can see the relationships between characters as they are built, and try to figure out why they have these reactions to one another in the present day. These flashbacks also serve as a way to show how intensely these characters were trained for numerous situations. For instance, they were all trained with minor first aid skills in order to remove a bullet and treat a bullet wound, or minor plastic explosives training, or something along those lines. The series also follows some of the heist tropes that I talked about earlier, like internal struggles amongst the crew, or relationships formed with each other, or the "that was my plan all along" speech when something seemingly goes horribly wrong. Since the heist takes 22 episodes, there are also some Stockholm-esque relationships that form between the captors and captives. Some of them are friendly, some of them are hateful, but a bigger portion of them are purely carnally sexual. That's another thing I noticed with this show, is the amount of sex, romance, and passion between these characters. I don't watch any other Spanish shows, or shows from countries of romance, like France or Italy for that matter, but there seems to be a lot of kissing, a lot of face touching, and a whole lot of fucking. which normally I do the thing of like putting the video over here of like examples of that, but because I don't want this video to get age-gated, I'm going to skip that one for this. Now for the why aren't yous. Reasons that you might not be watching the show in your free time. Of course, this comes with a caveat that you're looking for a new show to binge, watch, and you have a Netflix account. But in today's world, I think Netflix is the one service that most people have, so that's not as big an issue as some of my many other videos with HBO or Hulu subscriptions being necessary. Does the show have Spanish dialogue and English subtitles? I'm not trying to read my shows. The show does have an option for the original Spanish dialogue with English subtitles, and that's how I personally prefer to watch the show. There is an option to have the voices dubbed in English, or a host of other languages though. I started rewatching the show in the English dub to get this review written, and there's nothing wrong with it by any means, but the passion in the Spanish original voice cast is amazing, and it feels a lot more intense than the English dialogue in my opinion. Plus, seeing the lips of the actors not match up to what they're saying gets frustrating to me sometimes, more so than having to read the text.
M16, sir.
Nobody moves. You got that?
This could be our break.
I said nobody moves.
Take off the mask.
How does this show follow the cat and mouse game of the robbers and the police? I think the show handles it pretty well. The main brain games between the cops and the robbers are done by Inspector Raquel Murillo on the police side and the professor on the robber side via telephone negotiations. In any other circumstances, it would be the police serving as the cats trying to catch the thieving mice. However, the professor is so cool and calculated and methodical that he ends up being the one toying with the police every step of the way. That's not to say the police don't have their moments and good ideas. They do. They just don't outshine the work done by the professor and the rest of the crew. You said you liked heist movies, but this one was different. How was it different? I'm not entirely sure how to put it differently. I mean, it's longer than movies, so there's more time to build relationships with the characters and understand relationships with each other. I think that these robbers are a little bit smarter, like the mastermind of the heist somehow feels like he has a lot more planned than your average heist movie. But at the same time, the show isn't complicated. They don't have to pull the, we only have so much time to explain it, so take our word that this works. And the show actually chooses to take you along the planning process and make sure that the audience is on the same page with how everything's working and why it's working and things like that. Do you have a favorite character? Absolutely. I think all the characters are really well thought out. Like the young and naive Rio with a heart of gold, the relatably nerdy but genius professor, the soft-spoken but muscle-bound Helsinki, the hot-headed and rash decision-making narrator of the story in Tokyo. But I think I have two favorites in particular. Berlin, the leader of the group on the inside. He's an asshole, he's a monster. He is in no way a forgivable character by any stretch of the imagination. But he's also methodical, cold, calculated. The mission comes first no matter what. It's kind of interesting to see the mind of this psychopath and how he handles almost every situation so calmly. On the opposite end of the spectrum, however, is Nairobi. She has a motherly personality and forms very strong relationships with almost everyone on the crew. She has a very warm presence and even acts friendly to some of the prisoners. She knows it's not their fault that they happen to come to the mint on a bad day, so she tries to treat them like human beings. This also isn't just a job for her. With how much money she'd be getting from the heist, this would be her last job that she'd ever have to do. She'd be able to get back to her family, leave her life of crime behind, and start fresh. She doesn't want the money to live lavishly. I mean, she does, who doesn't want to do that, but it's also the one last score trope often used in these kinds of dramas. Plus, Nairobi's pretty easy on the eyes. Money Heist is currently available to stream on Netflix. I recommend it, of course, as this is one of the shows on Netflix that'll make you think for a moment and scratch that itch of smart people outsmarting each other, all while fulfilling the themes of romance in a tough time, keeping relationships with those important to you, and keeping a level head. And considering the group is locked in the mint for the entire first 2 seasons, without being able to get outside for fear of death, kind of feels somehow allegorical. 9 or 10 months after it started, there are still so many people in lockdown because of the global pandemic, and the idea of getting stir-crazy is somewhat relatable. But it also sings the hope of revolution and change, something that, in today's climate, is something that people can get behind. But I think that's where I'm going to end this one. Thank you guys for watching and sticking around till the end of the episode. You know the drill, subscribe for more videos, like the video, comment suggestions of other shows and movies and video games to review. Follow me on Twitter to tell me that I should have taken Spanish, and follow me on Instagram to insult my video thumbnail game. I'll link below to my website and a playlist of the rest of these videos. I hope you have a great day, and I'll catch you on the next video.